The reason I mentioned that in relation to this particular argument is, well, just the year before, he was on Telemundo and another Spanish-speaking network telling the Hispanic community that as much as he would like to just go do that, he didn't have the authority. He didn't have the power, that he was limited by the Constitution. The Constitution said that it was up to Congress to do that. He said that. He recognized his limitation a year prior to going ahead and doing exactly what he said he couldn't do. So the very fact that he's currently acknowledging that the 14th Amendment does not give him the power to ignore the debt ceiling, nor does it give him the authority to be involved with anything other than, I don't know, let's try presenting a budget and letting Congress vote on it. Congress has to decide how they're going to deal with the debt ceiling. It's not up to the president. And I'm pretty sure San Francisco values and all, as moronic as we've got to pass the bill to find out what's in the bill happens to be, that Miss Nancy Pelosi, Minority Leader, former Speaker of the House, is very much aware of the fact that it's Congress's responsibility to deal with things financial. They control the purse strings. And when it comes to budgetary issues, it's supposed to start in the House. That rule's still there. The way it used to be, early days, heaven help us if we could ever return to this part, every law was supposed to start in the House, was supposed to go to the Senate. If it made it through the House, and then if it made it through the Senate, then it was supposed to go to the president's desk, and he was supposed to either sign it or veto it. Now we have both sides working on their own bills, and then after they pass whatever they're going to pass, if they pass it, then there's a reconciliatory committee meeting where they try to merge the bills together. So then what actually goes to the president's desk isn't what actually got passed in either house, but an amalgamation of both. Which means there's stuff that the House could have voted out of the bill as an amendment to the bill so that they could actually pass it, that will get put back in because of the Senate side. And then your representative voted for something that's completely different than what gets signed into the law, but he's officially on record as having supported it. Now, how messed up is that, especially if your representative may have been one of the people fighting against something like, let's say, with the upcoming vote for the further Hurricane Sandy relief that has all this ridiculous pork with the big-time perks going to some of the Wall Street banks, the extra cash for NASCAR, don't know why that's in with hurricane relief, Alaskan fisheries. What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. We have a government that's filled with people who have no idea what it means to struggle for every single penny you earn. So, they don't care how they waste your money. We've already got a movement afoot to further restrict gun ownership in this country, rather than actually deal with the focus problem, and that is the criminals who use it with ill intent. We're still going to pass legislation that penalizes law-abiding citizens, because certain members of this agenda want the guns out of the hands of the American citizens, not because it's going to make anyone safer, but because it's going to be easier to institute martial law. Because make no mistake about it, if this bill to repeal the 22nd Amendment doesn't pass, there will be some calamity. And just like the Hugo Chavez example in Venezuela, there's going to be every excuse and fashion made for there to be a reasonable legal argument to allow it. Now, if this does get passed, expect more of the same. But they still are desperate because, these people are trying so very hard to pretend like they have the legal authority to do the things they want to do. This is an attack on your intelligence, Mr. and Mrs. America. This is an attack on the intelligence of every citizen that's out there right now who cares. It would be an attack on the intelligence of the citizens out there that doesn't care, except you have to wonder if they have enough intelligence to be insulted if they're not paying attention to this stuff, because this is coming. Is there anybody out there who honestly believes that everyone's just going to hand over their guns when that order finally comes? And believe you and me, ladies and gentlemen, that is the goal. The so-called progressives are the masters of incrementalism. They're going to come at you a little at a time. Their initial goal is to just put you on the slippery slope, knowing that as long as little by little they can keep nudging you down it, eventually you start feeling so hopeless about getting back up to the top that you're not even going to try. That's where so many Americans are right now, and while so many of them are so disenfranchised and fed up with the whole political system. Right now, we are looking at so many things so messed up, nobody believes there's a way back. Well, there is. It's just a matter of what path we're going to choose. We can do the cold turkey, quick, ow, it's going to hurt, just rip the Band-Aid off solution. Or we can try the coddle you, baby you, let's go little at a time solution. But the problem with that is that it's taken a long time for us to get down where we are. And if we go a little at a time to go back up, that just gives the so-called progressives the chance to start nudging back again. If we go the slow route, it's only going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort on their part to not only take back what gains we've made, but to push us further down that slope. And ladies and gentlemen, the bottom of that slope is not a place that any liberty-loving American wants to be. We are the shining example to the rest of the world of what personal liberty should be. We are envied. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the source of the anger that's out there. That's why we have this negative image around the world. These people don't like us because they're not us. If you'll take a long, hard look at the countries out there that have similar values, they don't dislike us. They want to be our friends. If we take a long, hard look at the nations that are nothing like us, they hate us. But they still want our money. Billions of dollars to the Muslim Brotherhood. Billions of dollars to Syria before the so-called Syrian civil war started. Billions of dollars in weapons being funneled through illegal sources to members of Al-Qaeda, among others, to help fight in the Syrian civil war. Millions of dollars in aid to Afghanistan. Millions of dollars in aid to Pakistan, who still harbors malicious, militant, terrorist groups who want nothing more than to slip back over into Afghanistan, overthrow the current relatively democratic government there, and kill as many Americans as they can in the process. These are dangerous times, and they're more and more dangerous for us because we're slipping so far down that slope. There may not be a way back if we don't make these changes soon, but we've got to make them quickly. I read an article from a blogger who posed the question, if they come from our guns, do we have a responsibility as citizens to fight? Now, you just read that headline and you think, this sounds like a call to arms. This sounds like somebody who wants to lead an armed revolt. But through reading the rest of the article, it made it clear that the idea of fighting in this particular instance is through civil and legal means. The whole point was actually challenging the mainstream media and their way of reporting these stories. Because the guy's right. The mainstream media wants you to believe that whatever the government decides, well, then it's over. It's a done deal. We don't have to worry about it. It's over. We can't do anything else about it. Well, that's wrong, ladies and gentlemen. And there are still enough judges that actually still follow the law, that taking legal steps to fight for our rights guaranteed in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is still an option. And the quick answer to the question is yes. As citizens, we have the responsibility, not just the ability, not just the option, but the honest-to-goodness responsibility to pick up the flame of liberty and to try everything we can so that we can eventually hand that torch off to the next generation. We cannot sit back and quietly just accept what the current occupier and all his little so-called progressive cronies want for us. We are not going to be simply another member state of the UN. We are not going to falter and fail as the European Union has financially, although that's the path they have us on. We have to demand our government be constitutionally limited and that they do their jobs. We have to pick up that fight. And that starts with letters and emails and phone calls. And I know so many people out there just want to tell me, well, it doesn't do any good. It doesn't make a difference. That's where you're wrong. It doesn't make a difference if you don't call these people out on it. It does make a difference when you flood these people's offices with all this type of information and let them know that not only you but all your friends either support something or don't support something that's being pushed. Because these people are still initially, most of them, not all, but they're all by nature cowards. They want to be reelected more than they want to take a stand. So they'll take that stand if they feel like it's necessary to get reelected. But also, occasionally, you have somebody who's going to take one for the team, especially when it's so late in an election cycle. Jose Serrano, Democrat in New York, he introduces the bill to repeal the 22nd Amendment. That was done this past Friday on the 4th of January, early in the cycle, so that there's plenty of time to work on this, so that there's plenty of time for people to forget whose name was on it in case it doesn't work out well. So there's plenty of time for this guy to possibly separate himself from it, make the argument it had nothing to do with trying and keeping the current occupier in office. When you look at the concerted effort of attacking religious freedom, of attacking freedom of speech, the Tea Party people have done nothing more but demand fiscal responsibility from people whose idea of budget cuts is to reduce the baseline increases of 10% to 8% and say, ooh, we cut blah, blah, blah from the budget. They'll take whatever numbers work best, sound like they've done the most, when in truth all they've done is continue to raise how much they're spending. And again, in all honesty, we don't even have a budget. We just have baseline continuing resolution increases. Excuse me. Sorry about that. You know, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, as I sit here wearing my Heritage Foundation ball cap and scribbling out a couple of show notes with my Hillsdale College pen, I can't help but feel like somebody somewhere has lost their focus. And it's happened as a result of the American people. This is an indictment against us for letting our sovereign power be taken from us, letting our representative republic become a democracy of the privileged. It's not supposed to be that way. And we've got to open up our eyes, because why else introduce a bill to repeal the 22nd Amendment if not to try to get Barack Hussein Obama back? Let's take a short, quick commercial break and we'll be right back.